So we were looking at P1H, and the problem is asking you to create an array, fill it up with strings, and then iterate through the array looking for Michael Jackson, right? Now the rule is when you're comparing two strings, you don't use equal equals. And the reason for that is because a string is an object. And an object, like the variable that contains the object, contains a memory location. So when you do equal equals, it's comparing this memory location with this memory location typically, right? And so let me go ahead and show you on a piece of paper. So if here is our computer's memory and we have string 1 is equal to a string, it's going to contain a hexadecimal value that is representative of where in memory that string is contained, right? So let's say dad, right? Dads, okay? And then if I have a string 2 and I put the same string in it, it's going to point to a different location in memory where that string is contained, even though it contains the same string, right? DADS. So this one is going to be like 9B714. Okay, so this location is different than this location, even though they contain the string with the same characters. So if I say if string 1 is equal to string 2, right? This is going to be a false statement because string 1 contains this memory location value and string 2 contains this value. So they're different even though they contain the same strings. So how do you compare two strings? You use the dot equals. So you do string 1 dot equals string 2. And what is dot equals? It's a string method that compares the letters in the string to see if they are equal, which they are in this case, and it returns true if the characters in the two strings are equal. It does not compare memory locations. It does not compare the values that are in the variables. It compares the characters that are in the two strings, and it returns true if they're equal and false if they're not. Okay. So taking us back to our program, you might be asking yourself now, okay, well then if I used equal here, then why is it returning I found Michael, right? Well, the reason why is because what we're comparing here is what the artist 1 is pointing to is Michael Jackson, right? If I don't make it equal to a string and instead I create the string this way, this is going to create a new string object, right? And place the name Michael into it. Now if I do it this way, I'm going to have an error. Watch. Whoa, where am I? Okay, I'm here. Compile. Not found, not found, not found. Why? Because of what I explained over here. Okay? And it's because this string object is different than this string object. Okay? Because we have a new string here. Now, if we don't do new string, then this string object is the same, is placed in the same location in memory as this string object. But if we say new string, then it's going to put it into a new memory location, and all of the stuff I talked about in the earlier on kicks into play. Okay, and so let's go ahead and do it like this. And instead, let's go ahead and use the new string for all of these for Mozart and whatnot. Okay. And if I did use new string for all of these, then in order to get the program to work properly, I would need to not use equals in my if statement, right? I would instead need to do dot equals and put a parentheses around Michael Jackson. So if I do that and I run it and I run this, I get this, right? Found Michael Jackson. Okay, so everything works fine now that I'm using dot equals. Okay, so now the problem is asking you, let's go ahead and take this second artist, or the artist in the second element of the array, or the 2 element in the array, and let's go ahead and not make them equal to a string, but let's make them equal to the absence of an object. And what is the absence of an object? It is null, right? So here's object, object, no object, object. Now when I run it, it's going to give me an error. And why, right? And so it says null pointer exception error. And so that is the error that is being talked about over here in problem set P1H, where it talks about it here, right? After changing artist2 to null, run it again and say, hey, we have an error. And why do we have an error? So that's the question. It's why is it that when we do artist element 2 in the artist array, we set it equal to null, why do we get an error here? Okay, so we could talk about that if you want, but that's what the problem is asking.